The NFL draft is just around the corner, and things are heating up in Raider Nation. In today's show, we're diving into something every fan loves: trades. That's right, we're going to talk about 5 players the Raiders might move before or during the 2025 NFL draft. The draft is less than a week away, and the buzz around the silver and black is louder than ever. You keep hearing things like, could this guy get traded? Or, is that player on the move? Well, we're breaking it all down. Let's start with the name that keeps coming up: Aidan O'Connell. According to Vic Tafur from The Athletic, the Raiders are open to trading O'Connell for a day 3 pick. That's rounds 4 through 7. Why? Well, the Raiders are expected to draft a quarterback and they could pick one at any point. Pete Carroll and John Spytek have even said as much. It could be someone like Will Howard or Quinn Ewers, or maybe even another name we don't see coming. If they draft a quarterback, he'll compete with O'Connell. But if the right trade comes along, AOC could be on the move. From a salary standpoint, it doesn't hurt the Raiders much, and they'd save about $93,000. But for the team trading for him, they'd only be on the hook for about $1.2 million. And honestly, for a guy who's played 20 games and started 17 of them, that's a pretty good deal. Now, I'll be real with you. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I wouldn't rush to trade Aidan O'Connell. Yeah, I know that might surprise some people. But hear me out. If a team offers a 4th-round pick, sure, I'm listening. But unless it's a deal that actually makes sense, I'm fine keeping AOC. Why? Because he's a solid backup behind Geno Smith. And having a steady backup QB is way more important than people realize. Think about it. Aiden's experience could actually help a rookie quarterback grow. And if Geno were to go down with an injury, let's hope not, you wouldn't want to just throw a brand new rookie into the fire. That's a recipe for disaster. You want someone like Aidan to step in, steady the ship, and let the rookie continue to learn. So here's a trade I've cooked up. Aidan O'Connell to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for a 6th-round pick, number 185 overall. Why Pittsburgh? Well, they're sitting at pick 21 and still don't have a clear QB1. Some rumors say Shedeur Sanders might fall to them at 21. But not so fast. According to NFL insider Tyree Wilson, the Steelers' meeting with Shedeur reportedly didn't go well at all. In fact, some teams have been so turned off that Shedeur could fall out of the first round entirely. Now, if the Steelers are seriously thinking about going into the season with Mason Rudolph as their starter, that's a problem. And if they get even a hint that Aaron Rodgers might retire instead of suiting up for them, things get messier. Bottom line, Aidan O'Connell is better than Mason Rudolph, and the Steelers might need a safety net. Now let's talk about another name, Michael Mayer, the Raiders' tight end. I'll admit this one's tricky. I'm not sure how likely it is the Raiders actually trade him, but I do think there are teams out there watching closely. Now, before you ask, why isn't Zamir White on this list? It's because I don't think there's much trade interest in him right now, but Mayer, that's different. Trade rumors have been swirling around him since last year's trade deadline. Why? Mostly because of missed games and the buzz around Brock Bowers and the future TE1 in Vegas. That's not a knock on Mayer, it's just reality. Bowers is elite, possibly the best young tight end in the league. If the Raiders trade Mayer, they'd save about $653,000, but they'd also take a $1.9 million hit in dead cap. Yes, Mayer has struggled, but let's be fair. He's dealt with bad QB play, coaching changes, new offensive systems, constant instability. The only steady thing has been tight end coach Luke Steckel, and this guy is highly respected. He's like the Rob Leonard of tight ends, known for developing talent. If any team might roll the dice on Mayer, I think it's the Indianapolis Colts. They brought back Mo Alie-Cox, but he's not a long-term TE1. Mayer could be. So here's the idea. Raiders send Mayer to the Colts. Colts send back a 5th-round pick. That's the kind of deal that could help both sides. Just to be clear, I'm not saying these trades will happen. This show is about why a player could get traded and what kind of draft compensation might make sense if a team picked up the phone. So here's a question I want you to answer in the comments. Which Raiders player is most likely to get traded during the NFL draft? And remember, I recorded this video on April 18th, so things might look a little different by the time you're watching. But here's my take. I think the most likely player to be traded on draft night is Aidan O'Connell. We've seen teams move quarterbacks during the draft before, and with so many QB needy teams and Aiden's solid play last season, he's a prime candidate. But if I had to name a dark horse trade candidate, it would be Thayer Munford. Now, I'm not diving deep into him today, but if a team offered the Raiders something small, like a 2026 seventh round pick, I think a Munford deal could get done. All right, let's shift to the offensive line and talk about a big name, Colton Miller. Trade rumors around him, they've been swirling. And maybe there's some truth to them, maybe not. There's a lot of smoke, but is there actual fire? Here's what we know. Miller wants a new contract. If the Raiders don't give him one, a trade becomes very possible. Why would a team be interested? Because Colton Miller is still one of the top offensive tackles in the NFL. He's been consistently reliable for the past 4 to 5 seasons. And here's the kicker. If teams miss out on elite OT prospects like Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu, who could both go in the top 7 picks, Miller suddenly becomes a hot option. Why? Because trading for Miller means you get a proven, starting caliber left tackle. He's only 29 years old. You're paying just $12.3 million this season? Yes, you'll need to work out a contract extension, but it's worth it. For a team that needs a starting left tackle now, Miller is a safer bet than rolling the dice on a rookie. If a Colton Miller trade were to go down, I think the Green Bay Packers are the most likely team to pull the trigger. And here's the trade I could see happening. Raiders get second round pick 54 overall. Packers get Colton Miller. Why Green Bay? Well, we've already seen a trend. A number of former Raiders have ended up there, and a big reason is likely Rich Bisaccia, who's now on the Packers staff. Another team to keep an eye on, wherever Derek Carr is. Carr and Miller have stayed close, and I wouldn't be shocked if Carr made a push for him. But back to the Packers. Their current left tackle, Rashid Walker, is solid. He's only 26 and in the final year of his contract. But Colton Miller is a clear upgrade. Plus, Green Bay needs to protect Jordan Love's blind side, especially with the injuries Love has battled. And let's not forget, Miller is close to Josh Jacobs, who's also now in Green Bay. That chemistry might matter more than we think. So if the Raiders have no plans to give Miller a contract extension, I think they'll pull the trigger and take that second round pick. That's not a guess. That's what I honestly think will happen. Let's move to the next name on the offensive line, Dylan Parham. Now, this one hurts. I do not want the Raiders to trade Parham. In fact, I want them to give him a contract extension. I'm a big Parham fan, and I'll tell you why. He's versatile, he's underrated, and he's had to deal with multiple coaching regimes in just a few years. And yet, he's kept his head down and produced. That's the kind of player you build around. Let's be honest here. Dylan Parham has been a starter. He's played left guard, right guard, and now he's heading into a new season with his fourth coaching regime. But here's the key. He's also entering the final year of his contract. Now, if I'm the Raiders and I want to get the most value possible, the smart move might be to trade him before the NFL draft. Because once the draft is over, Parham's value could drop fast. Think about it. The Raiders just signed Alex Kappa, a guy connected to John Spytek, on a 2-year, $11 million deal. That sounds like starting guard money. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Parham. He's versatile, and that's huge in today's NFL. He can play center, both guard spots, and even played right tackle in college. Now, is he a tackle in the NFL? Probably not. Some people think he's not even a guard because of his size. He could use a bit more weight, sure, but what he brings in versatility makes him valuable. So, which team makes sense? I'm looking at the New York Giants. Their O-line coach is Carmen Brasillo, a former Raider coach, and there are a lot of connections there. Here's a trade I could see happening. Raiders get pick number 105, Giants get Dylan Parham. Pick Gnome 2, 1-3, 6th round. Now, I know some people might think Parham alone is worth a 4th round pick. But let's be real. If the Raiders are looking to move him, other teams know that, so you're probably not getting top dollar. That's why I think a pick swap makes sense. Now let's talk Tyree Wilson. If we're just talking about value, I guarantee there's an NFL team out there saying, we can make Tyree Wilson work. We can turn him into the player the Raiders couldn't. And here's the situation. Tyree has 2 years left on his rookie deal. He was picked number 7 overall. That's a big investment. But if the Raiders don't believe he's getting a fifth year option, then this is basically year three. And that means it's now or never. Time to step up. The Raiders brought back Malcolm Kuntz. They brought back Adam Butler. And they've been scouting guys like Jalen Walker and other interior D-line prospects. So you look at Tyree and wonder, can he replace a guy like Clelin Ferrell? Can he rotate inside at DT or stay outside as a defensive end? Here's the concern. He hasn't been working out with the Raiders. He's been training back in Dallas-Fort Worth. Now, trading Tyree doesn't save the team any money. In fact, you'd be eating a ton of dead cap. So if they move him, it better be worth it. Problem is, I don't see any team offering more than a fourth-round pick for him. If I had to guess which team needs edge help the most, I'd say the Atlanta Falcons. Now, trading him to the NFC might make sense. But teams like the Chiefs or Chargers might also show interest. And I really hope the Raiders don't trade him within the division. But let me say this clearly. If the Raiders do trade Tyree Wilson, that means they've decided he's just not going to develop. And that would be a big deal. Because this coaching staff, with Rob Leonard, Patrick Graham, they've helped turn average defensive linemen into solid contributors. If Tyree can't make it work with his staff, maybe it's just not going to happen. And I truly hope that's not the case. All right, out of all the trades we talked about today, which one do you think was the best offer? Drop your answers in the comments. If it's the Falcons going after Tyree Wilson, type Falcons. If it's the Steelers and Aidan O'Connell, you type Steelers. If it's the Colts targeting Michael Mayer, type Colts. If it's the Packers going for Colton Miller, type Packers. Or if you like the Giants deal for Dylan Parham, type Giants. And again, I'm not saying these are the trades I definitely do. I always try to give you my honest opinion on fair value for both the Raiders and the other team. If a trade does happen, you know I'll be here to break it all down.